You know the one. That floating ball of flesh with a giant angry eye and a bunch of writhing eye stalks on top. The Beholder. It's one of the most iconic and frankly bizarre monsters in all of fantasy. But it's so much more than just a floating turret of magic rays. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain and dissect the anatomy of this floating nightmare.
Yeah, and this quote right here, it gets straight to the terrifying heart of it all. See, a beholder isn't just a monster you can fight with a sword. It's a creature whose mind can literally warp reality itself. Its paranoid nightmares can just pop into existence as new, twisted copies of itself. Copies that it then immediately tries to destroy. We're talking pure cosmic horror.
So what's the deal with this thing? What's its driving force? Well, honestly, it's a complete paradox. Beholders are genuine geniuses, wielding immense magical power, but they are absolutely fundamentally crippled by this deep, all-consuming paranoia and hatred of everything.
And it all boils down to this one simple, terrifying belief. Each and every beholder is 100% convinced that it is the pinnacle of creation, the one true, perfect form. Every other living thing, and I mean especially every other beholder, is just a flawed, disgusting, and deeply insulting copy that has to be wiped from existence. That perfect, narcissistic insanity, it defines everything they are.
Okay, so how does that level of madness actually show up in its body? Well, a beholder's insanity isn't just in its head, it's written into every part of its completely alien biology.
Let's start with its most powerful weapon, that big central eye. It shoots out a 150-foot cone where magic just stops. Gone. Poof. But here's the kicker, the great irony. That cone also shuts down its own eye stalks. It creates this fascinating blind spot, a tactical weakness right in the middle of its greatest strength.
And get this, those eyes aren't just projectors, they're collectors. They're like magical sponges. A beholder literally absorbs ambient magic from the world around it, just by looking at spells, magic items, you name it. That energy gets stored in its brain and then supercharged to power those infamous eye rays.
And beyond its all-seeing eyes, a beholder's other senses are just weird. It breathes through its skin. It hears through little eardrums scattered all over its body. It has absolutely no sense of taste, and it uses its tongue as its main way to feel things. This creature was built for one thing and one thing only, to see everything and to dominate what it sees. So this brings up a pretty big question, right? If every single beholder thinks it's the only perfect one and hates all the others, how in the world does the species keep going? Well, you can probably guess the answer is just as horrifying as the creature itself. There are two ways, and neither are pretty. The first, like we talked about, is through its reality-bending nightmares. But the second way? Oh man, a womb literally grows inside the beholder's throat, behind its tongue. It then unhinges its entire jaw and just regurgitates the whole thing. The newborn beholders, which can fly right away, have to chew their way out of that gory mess, already knowing deep in their bones that they're perfect.
But where does all this legendary paranoia even come from? I mean, it's not just a bad mood. It's a fundamental flaw baked right into the beholder's consciousness.
You see, a beholder's mind is literally split in two. It has a rational mind and an intuitive mind, and they are always constantly at war with each other. One mind can actually hide plans, truths, and fears from the other. Think about that. That's the real source of its paranoia. How can you trust the world when you can't even trust yourself?
And of course, this internal chaos has its own twisted religion. The core belief is simple. Every beholder thinks it was personally spawned by a goddess called the Great Mother, and that it and it alone is her perfect creation. So, killing another beholder isn't just getting rid of a rival, it's a holy act. It's purifying the universe of a flawed cosmos.
So what happens when you have a species that reproduces through nightmares and believes every variation is heresy? Well, you get a universe filled with a vast, varied, and universally despised family of what are called beholderkin.
And a true beholder looks at all these variants with nothing but pure, unfiltered hatred. A death tyrant? An undead zombie mockery? Totally abhorrent. A goth? It's a smaller abomination that eats magic. But the spectator? A version that can actually form friendships? To a creature defined by its narcissism, that is probably the most unthinkable insult of them all.
Okay, so, if they're so hateful and solitary, how does one become a criminal mastermind, like the famous Xanathar? Well, that's what happens when you get what the lore calls a sane beholder.
which basically just means its two warring minds have finally agreed to work together.
And these sane but still deeply evil beholders have a clear playbook for taking over. First, you find a super-secret, well-defended lair. Next, you use your charm rays to build an army of completely loyal minions. Then you set up a front, like a thieves' guild or a cult. And finally, you rule it all from the shadows, letting a proxy do all the dirty work.
They use all kinds of charmed minions, huge monsters as guards, stealthy assassins to take out rivals, spies to gather intel. But the most important minion by far is the representative. This is the one person a beholder uses to interact with the outside world, so it'll actually treat this person unusually well, because that proxy is its only safe connection to everything it wants to control.
And that leads us to the final, really important question. A single beholder has enough firepower to level a city. It can disintegrate anything it looks at. So with all that power and all that hatred for everything, why haven't they just erased it all? Why not just turn the world to dust?
And the answer, well, it brings us right back to the beginning. A beholder's incredible, universe-sized ego needs an audience. It craves, it feeds on the fear and worship of what it sees as lesser beings. If it destroyed the world, it would destroy the very thing that proves its own perfection. Without a world to terrorize, a beholder's ego would have nothing left to eat. It simply couldn't exist.